thank you for joining us today. We're quite curious to see what you're going to be telling us. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Paul Fourie. I'm the Biosecurity Manager for Citrus Research International. I'm based in the Eastern Cape at the Citrus Foundation Block outside Uitenhage. The Citrus Improvement Scheme, which is the foundation block, supplies all the certified budwood and seed to the citrus nurseries in the country, and that's part of the Citrus Improvement Scheme. It's a subdivision within Biosecurity, so I'm managing that division. And Biosecurity is a bit more broader. The big aim of Biosecurity, the division, is to identify possible threats to the Southern African citrus industry, and then also to make plans how to prevent those pests and diseases, those exotic threats coming into the country, and also how to mitigate the impact that they can have once they do get in. So it's a broad portfolio, but quite exciting, working with plant pathologists, virologists within CRI, as well as the entomologists. So it's really fascinating and challenging.
How do some of these pathogens arrive in South Africa? Let's say, it's not just pathogens, I presume it's pests as well.
Yes, pests and pathogens. The most common way is through plant material. So if you want to bring plant material into South Africa, you've got to go through a legal route. So all citrus propagation material that come in new cultivars goes through a process called post-entry quarantine. The material goes to Nelspruit at the ARC, where they literally take the tip of a growing meristem, 0.2 millimeters, which is virus-free, that growth tip, and they microbud that onto a new rootstock. And in that process, they clean the material from all viruses and viroids, and then diagnose them to make sure that they're clean, and then they send it down to foundation block. So there's a very particular way of bringing material into South Africa legally. But if somebody travels to Mauritius and sees a nice lime tree in the back garden of their guest house and pick a branch and bring it to South Africa and bud it onto the tree, they can bring in serious diseases. In fact, that is how HLB, or Huanglongbing, which is the most feared disease in the world, came into USA, Florida, and also into California. In California, they talk about this Chinese gentleman who brought in material from China, budded on a tree in his back garden. He had 23 different grafts of buds that he brought in, and he brought in at least 2 exotic diseases into California, and those diseases can devastate an industry.
But in that case, so we all talk about HLB, but how do you pronounce it? How long?
Huanglongbing.
Huanglongbing.
It means yellow shoot disease in Mandarin. That's the only Mandarin I speak.
Huanglongbing.
It's Huanglongbing.
Huanglongbing. Okay, yeah. Right. So
it's basically the other term for it is Asian citrus greening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've got African citrus greening in South Africa. We've had it since the 1930s. It's only in certain areas in the country, not widespread across South Africa. But it is not as severe as this Asian citrus greening. I mean, HLB is absolutely devastating. It wiped out more than 90% of the USA, Florida industry. I mean, they used to be the leader in world citrus juice production. They're now only 10% of that industry still standing.
Wow.
It is one disease. And the USA has spent billions of dollars trying to research a cure. There's still no cure. So we're working. That's probably our main aim is to prevent this disease from getting to South Africa.
So in that case, that disease needs a vector to transmit it. Am I correct?
Yes.
Which is a little midge, kind of thing.
It's a psyllid.
A psyllid, yeah. So we've got in the African greening in South Africa, we've got the African they call it trihosid, but it's a psyllid. It's a sap sucking insect. That distributes the call it vector, the African greening, but the Asian citrus greening is vectored by Diaphorinus citri. It's the Asian citrus psyllid.
So this gentleman that brought it into California, did he happen to bring one of those little bugs with, or what did he?
He did not. That gentleman brought in the bacterium only. So with the budwood, it's a bacterium only. But the psyllid came into California. I don't exactly know how the psyllid got into California, to be honest. But now it's almost like the bacterium is there. All it needs is the vector to start spreading it. So
Yes.
then it start picking it up, and then it'll move it around. So that's the big threat.
But what's the odds of that happening? There's one guy with one branch in his backyard with a pest in it, and that vector finding that particular branch.
It's a citrus specific pest, so it goes for citrus trees, and once it starts being more widespread, it does pose a problem. For example, in Florida, the psyllid came in, and with their hurricanes and challenges there, they didn't manage the psyllid. It got spread right across the state, and then it picked up the bacterium as well, and then it was like the perfect combination. So it is a problem. In South Africa, we sit with a situation where the African psyllid is endemic, so it's widespread. It's that one that most people in their back garden see this thing. It's you can see these pock marks on leaves, and that's a sign of the psyllid feeding and breeding on leaves. The leaves get this little pock-marked, crinkly, curly up.
And like a little gall.
Yes,
on the
exactly.
outside, yes.
That's the one. So it's quite widespread in South Africa, and that can also spread the Asian citrus greening. So if we get that somehow by somebody traveling from Mauritius or traveling from the east and bringing that in, it can be devastating. So a big challenge of us for us in biosecurity is public awareness. We speak often to our growers about the threats, and they know that the safest way of expanding citrus, of growing citrus, is using certified disease-free propagation material from the Citrus Improvement Scheme. And they've been doing that since the 1970s. So the citrus growers in South Africa, they the choir. We've been preaching to the choir for a long time, but now we need to start speaking to the home garden people and the garden enthusiasts. Yes, and that's where the risk is. Somebody just bringing something in and they didn't know, and they grow the tree in their back garden, and suddenly that's where the fire starts.
Exactly.
Well, I would imagine most people bring the common pathway to bring something like that in would be by aeroplane if you are arriving from somewhere. So one of the places to really start that awareness would be right there when people are getting off the plane or before they leave.
But are they going to declare it? That's the next thing. How many people come in and have got stuff in their suitcase? No, we're not just going to declare.
No, we all go for the green route, but we need, and we're speaking with it's now the Border Management Authority, the BMA. And we're speaking with government to also make them aware and also to target certain traveling routes. So flights from Mauritius, flights from the east, to ask them to check. I don't know if you've seen often there's lots more awareness when a flight from Brazil lands in South Africa because of the drug traffickers. Okay. But we need to almost start looking for the plant traffickers.
Well, when you travel into Australia,
oh wow,
it's at a different level, and there's a reason why they do that. And I mean, if we are wanting to look after our citrus industry, there are things that can be done in that line. So it's one of those things we're just going to have to get going with that, because once that thing's here, it's here.
It is true.
Yeah, I know. For instance, if you go to New Zealand as well, if you go fishing in New Zealand and you wear those boots that they wear in the rivers, you're not allowed to just bring them in, especially not the old was felt sole, because they're scared of algae that might be trapped in those soles and could come in. But yeah.
Traveling to Australia, if you've been on a farm in the last month, I mean, they check your shoes, they spray stuff in the plane. They are really, really very, very concerned and worried. And now when you have this kind of conversation, you can understand why.
We're good friends with those Australian citrus industry people and their pathologists that work with their import regulations and so on. So we've learned from what the Aussies are doing. We've learned from what the Californians are going through, from the devastation in Florida. Our really good collaborators is Funda Citrus in Brazil. These guys have been living with HLB for a long time and managing it, and they're probably the best in the world in terms of the practical management of HLB. So we are in regular contact with these researchers, and they also make input on our plans. We've in CRI with the Department of Agriculture, we developed an HLB ACP. ACP stands for Asian Citrus Psyllid Action Plan for South Africa, and that clearly stipulates the how the cookie will crumble when the pawpaw eats the fan. That's a bad analogy, but that's
As long as the pawpaw, not the lemon.
Yes.
so we so that everybody, all the role players, knows exactly if we find this dreaded disease, what next, what steps are going to be in place, not how much, how far, all the stipulations are in place. And we had the international guys also peer review our action plan and make inputs on that, and we're at the stage where we're actually going to review it again ourselves, just to make sure that is this practical. If and this is what we've seen living with African greening, because African greening, for example, is not in the Eastern Cape, but in the Eastern Cape is managed as a disease-free, a pest-free area, they call it in government. So you need to do maintenance surveys to make sure that this area is still pest-free. And recently we detected African greening in East London. We detected African greening in Port Elizabeth. And Port Elizabeth is, for us, is a big concern because it's very close to the Citrus Foundation Block, which is the birthplace of all citrus in South Africa. It's the only certified source of propagation material. And also it's very close to the Sundays River, which is one of the most important growing regions.
Something like 25% of our crop comes from that.
Yes. Yeah, and arguably one of the best lemon producing areas in the world. So it is. So it's a big concern for us there, and what we've learned in these cities, that it becomes very difficult to manage the disease in an urban environment. For example, we've known about African greening in Knysna since 2017, and with Department of Agriculture, we've been there, we've gone back, we've eradicated trees, we've put out orders, but the horse has bolted. I think nowhere in the world, as if you don't detect it very, very early, you're not going to eradicate the disease. So you have to manage that. You have to manage that with preventing that vegetative propagation material moves out of that area where the disease is to pest-free areas. So these are some of the measures that we will have to start engaging with the cities of Port Elizabeth, East London, and Knysna in the near future. So it's all new. We've known for a long time how to speak to farmers, but now we have to start speaking to a variety of Mrs. Joneses and.
So okay, let's go down that route. So how would this be approached to the Mrs. Joneses and the Mr. Joneses who's got their little vegetable garden that sprung up everywhere after COVID in the backyard, and they bought a tree from the local nursery. And I've got an orange tree in my backyard, and on it had a sticker on saying CRI certified.
All right. Excellent. You started clean. You're on the right track.
Obviously, I know because we work with CRI, so I know how it works and what is needed. But for the people out there that do not know, and we had a conversation yesterday with a lady that does a variety management, things like that, is that often you see on Facebook, somebody will post a photo and they say, "Where can I get a piece of that? I want a stiggy, so I can plant it in my garden as well." How do we speak to those people? What can they do?
We'll have to get the message out, and we've realized it's as a plant pathologist, our trade is to cry wolf. We can explain to people how devastating this thing is. But you can only cry wolf for so long. Then it's that guy again. So we have to come with a new message, and we've come up with a slogan to say, let's keep our citrus smile, think biosecurity. So we've got this positive message that we want to put out, and we were working with some media people to just through social media get the positive message out, rather teach people, teach the likes of yourself how to plant your citrus tree in your back garden, how to look after, how to prevent it from getting these galls and these sooty molds and this black stuff on it. How can we help you to grow your tree properly? And in that positive message, maybe capture a larger audience of people that would also come to you with this concerning looking leaf. And if that is perhaps the wrong thing, we've got more eyes on the ground to pick up these exotic threats if they are out there. But on the other hand, we've got a wider audience, and people know how to source citrus trees responsibly. And in fact, that it's also there's some changes afoot that will become even more relevant for that, because the citrus improvement scheme, we're at the point. We've gone through all public consultation phases, and pretty soon it will be gazetted that the citrus improvement scheme will become a compulsory statutory scheme, meaning every citrus tree that is sold in South Africa have had to be made with CRI certified propagation material from the Citrus Foundation block outside Utenac. That means that, that guy that got the stiggy somewhere, he can't go to his nursery and make a few trees and sell it, because maybe that stiggy came from Mauritius or it came from China, and therewith he spreads all these diseases. But now we know that from the foundation block, these varieties are available. We've got more than 500 different citrus varieties at the foundation block. I don't think there's there's very few things in the world that we don't have, and that's available to anybody in South Africa that want to make it. But then you've got to go through the legal, responsible, safe route.
Yes. Okay. So another question I've got is, there's a lot of foreign investment in our neighbouring countries, and CRI and CGA, they all work in Southern Africa. But how is that managed? That who says that those guys doing investment there, and it could be from the east, it could be from anywhere. How are you guys involved with that? That material that they want to plant on their lands there come via you guys, or can they just take it there, or how does that work?
Fortunately, lots of the development into Southern Africa has been from South African growers that are part of that. So they know the value of and the importance of using certified propagation material. So at least those guys on their own started correctly. I think it's one of the very good initiatives or things that happened quite recently is that the CGA now encompasses Namibia, Botswana, as well as Mozambique and Eswatini and Zimbabwe as well. So it's truly the Southern African Citrus Growers Association. That also gives CRI the mandate to do extension and do biosecurity extension in those countries. And even before that, we were operating as soon as we know about citrus development there. We'll get in contact with the guys and just make them aware of using material citrus trees, certified citrus trees from the Citrus Improvement Scheme. So the Citrus Improvement Scheme supplies budwood to anybody that wants to order it in South Africa. But we've got 33 nurseries that are certified, and those nurseries are the good nurseries. We've got a star grading system that certifies the nurseries on a different grades that they come in after their audit score. But these nurseries have traditionally had these markets into Botswana, into Zimbabwe, fortunately, most of the Southern African developments has come through South Africa. We are concerned about Angola, and we've traveled to Angola a few times. Angola, being Portuguese speaking, have had traditional trading relationships with Brazil, and we know that they brought trees from Brazil into Angola from areas in Brazil where HLB is found. So it's a huge risk. We did some surveillance there, and on one farm we actually saw HLB. We saw the symptoms, but it happened to be African greening and not Huanglongbing. So we're still concerned, and we're working with some of the government people there. Basically, we're there to support them if they can, and we really need to get back to do some more surveillance in Angola as well. So there's CRI through the extension division also supports the developments into the different Southern African countries.
Wow.
You answered. You didn't quite answer a question I was about to ask, but I think you were on your way there. Do you know if there's any Asian greening in Africa?
We know it is in Ethiopia. We've from our own people. Henny Leroux went up there and he detected some samples.
I remember Henny Leroux. What a wonderful guy.
He was the first biosecurity manager in CRI. So we know it's in Ethiopia, and it was recently also reported in Kenya. So that is concerning. It is that the Kenyan report has not, it's only one report and has not been followed up with any delimitation survey. So we don't know how wide it has spread. Some of CRI's biosecurity people and researchers have gone to Kenya to investigate where they have found it. And we're busy with the study with the Kenyans to follow that up. The diaphragma citri, the Asian citrus psyllid, has been reported in Tanzania. CRI has been there before to trap. Wayne Kirkman, our biosecurity operations coordinator, will be traveling to Tanzania later this year again to put up traps, to do surveillance, to see if HLB has come across the border into Tanzania and whether the psyllids are hot or not. That's how we call it. If the psyllid is hot, it is carrying the bacterium. If it's not, if it's cold, it's not carrying the bacteria. And we anticipate the diaphragma citri to move down the coast of Mozambique. And we've gone as far north as the Beira, Shamoya, Machipanda corridor towards Zimbabwe, where we put out yellow sticky traps. The psyllid gets attracted to the trap and sticks on the trap, and then we can take the psyllid off the trap and do a PCR diagnostic on it to see if those psyllids are hot or not, and also if it is in fact diaphragma citri. So that we've got these surveillance activities in place just to see where in Africa our threats are.
And those governments, they are keen to work with you guys and help.
Yes, we've been really, it's been really positive in wherever I've been, in Angola and Zimbabwe, Mozambique. Really positive. Wayne will also be going up to Zambia later this year. The Botswanans are really, really positive. So
I know they've
Namibia,
made big investments into citrus, so I would presume they would be.
Yeah, so they're really keen and they understand and they support it. But it's difficult. It's resource poor countries. They've got very limited capacity on their own to conduct the surveillance. And a lot of that has got to be funded from CRI. So it's expensive work. Yeah. We're hoping to get some international funding for surveillance work in Africa, because that will certainly help us a lot. There's some WTO funding that we're looking at with some people in the African Union, and hopefully that can come off, because that'll fund quite a lot of these initiatives, because we need to get understanding and tracing it better. Africa it's extremely complicated, and this whole HLB disease here, like I said earlier, we learned from the Brazilians and we learned from the Californians and the Floridians, but they've got one psyllid there. It's an exotic pest that settled in their country, Diaphragma citri, and it's got the bacterium, Labyribacter asiaticus. And we based our methods and our surveillance strategies on their models. And when we started looking around in South Africa, we realized, but sure, we also have lots of other endemic Diaphragma species that looks very much like Diaphragma citri, which is the one that you don't want. So it becomes very, very difficult and specialized to identify these the insects on the traps. So we've got keys developed with specialist researchers from Switzerland, how to identify it morphologically. And we've got DNA barcoding systems developed in our labs in Nelspruit that identify the psyllid. So that's on the psyllid side. And now Evans Mauda, our entomologist, have also found out that Trahosa is very complicated. There's also lots of different species.
And then I think a question that could arise from somewhere is, what's the chance of HLB mutating to take one of these endemic psyllids?
I think I think Africa was the start of it all. There's actually a review paper that postulates that the whole Labyribacter, it's quite a fresh, evolutionary speaking, it's a very fresh disease. There's what we found
as fresh as a disease can be.
A few million years old, but yeah. But it's postulated that there's because we find in Africa, in southern Africa, certainly we find lots of Labyribacter africanus subspecies, in Rutaceae species, in calodendrons, in xanthoxylums, and you get in different host, African trees, you get these bacteria, and they do nothing to citrus. So we believe out of those ones, there was a mutation towards Africanus, which is citrus specialized. So the Labyribacter africanus, which causes African citrus greening. And maybe in those Gondwana days from Africanus, the Asiaticus one mutated. But luckily when Gondwana was already split up and it went to China, that part of it.
Right.
So that's what we think. But that all that diversity in the Labyribacter also makes it extremely difficult for us to diagnose accurately the African greening and discern between that one and the Asiaticus, the HLB one. There was it was actually in the when Henny Leroux was still alive. It was one of his trips that the first report from Kenya was they found HLB in Kenya, and Henny travelled up to Kenya with Tim Grout, and they detected the sample, brought it back, and actually realized that no, what they found in the tree is actually a subspecies of Africanus and not the HLB.
Yeah.
And in the diagnostics, the PCRs picked up a false positive in that case.
Sure.
Yeah.
If growers identify something on their farm that they're not sure or that they might have questions about, can they contact you guys? You guys can do tests, and
Yes.
or how does that work?
Yeah, that's thanks for that question. I think that's really what our outreach is to growers. And like I said earlier, we're preaching to the converted. So if growers see something funny, a weird symptom, they know they can contact CRI and the CRI specialists. But also if homeowners or backyarders or nurserymen, if they see something strange, take a photo of that, and they can send that photo to biosecurity@cri.coza. And that'll come to us, and we will send it to the right people and send you some advice back.
And also the nice thing now with Google Lens, you can take a photo with your Google app on your phone, and you can get. I've got I think citrus leaf miner on my tree, which I've identified using that little
All right.
just a Google Lens on my phone.
Yeah, Google. They might give you
A false thing,
a false answer.
but
I'll read you closer to the
if
answer.
it's false and you get a hell of a fright, it might prompt you to go to the right channels very quickly.
It happened and there was a hobbyist entomologist in Colchester in the Eastern Cape that trapped a psyllid, a Diaphorina psyllid, and took a photo of that, and she put it on iNaturalist or some website plane, and somebody from overseas, no, that's Diaphorina citri. And it's one of the lookalikes. But all of a sudden, everybody thought, wow, this thing is here, but it was a mistaken identity. So I think one needs to just confirm. So it's always good to speak to the specialists. So.
Well, Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. It was incredibly interesting.
Yes.
And good luck with getting the message out there to people, to the general public, on how important this is and the important role that they have to play in this.
Yeah, it is true. I think it's one of these things that a CRI on its own cannot solve this problem. It's much bigger than just a company. It's much bigger than an industry. It's really communities that will stand together. Because if this thing breaks out, knowing the world they've been able to stop this disease, and the only thing that really works is to stand together on an area-wide scale. So whole communities in the citrus growing areas will really need to work together to manage this disease.
Thank you.
Thank you.